Hey there, music lovers. Welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for dropping by and for checking out this video. I've got a concert review for you in this one, the first of many to come for 2019. I got a lot of shows coming up. My concert calendar is getting quite full. I've got plans to go see The Who, Sammy Hagar and the Circle, Iron Maiden, King Crimson, and a bunch of others. So stay tuned for those. Now in this video, I'm going to be talking about the first show that I've seen here in 2019, and it was Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes. And I know you're probably wondering, who in the hell is Southside Johnny? Yeah, he's not a household name. He's never had a hit album. He's never had a hit single. I mean, he might have had one album that went double plywood. He might have had one hit shingle, but he's never been a household name. He's probably more famous for who he knows than for what he's done. And he hails from New Jersey, okay? So you can probably get a sense of who some of his buddies are. When he was a teenager, he became friends with the likes of Bruce Springsteen and Steven Van Zandt, and also went to high school with Garry Tallent, who is currently the bass player in the E Street Band and has been for a very long time. And of course, he also crossed paths with Jon Bon Jovi, who was an influence on him a little bit later in the 80s. But in the early to mid 70s, he was working with little Steven Van Zandt, around the time that he joined the E Street Band. And of course, we all know that little Steven worked for the boss, Bruce Springsteen, but he worked for another boss, Tony Soprano. Remember when he played the role of Silvio Dante on HBO's The Sopranos, that big hit series? A great, great show. You know, Silvio not only ran the Bada Bing, the strip club, but he also was a consigliere, the right-hand man to the mob boss, Tony Soprano. So I guess you could say Southside Johnny, he's a little bit connected. He has gone on record saying that, you know, that guy you see, Silvio Dante, that's pretty much little Steven. Like, that's very much him. You know, he's a sweet guy, but you don't want to cross him. You know what I mean? And so it got me thinking about, how many Italian people do you know who are maybe a couple of degrees, maybe one or two, from somebody who can, let's just say, can get something done for you, you know? There's that game, The 6 Degrees of Separation, from Kevin Bacon, you know, where supposedly we're all like 6 people away from somebody who knows Kevin. Well, I think when it comes to Italians, just think about someone you know. They either know someone or they know someone who knows someone who can get something done. And I mean, you know, like maybe somebody owes you money, and then all of a sudden a check shows up. Or maybe it comes to your front door with a smile. I don't know. Maybe somebody's busting your balls, giving you a real hard time, and all of a sudden, you know, they're saying hello and they're, you know, extra nice to you. Or maybe they just disappear. I don't know. Somebody like that, you know, think about that. Anyway, yeah, Southside Johnny has some really famous friends, and his first 3 albums, which were in 1976, 77, and 78, they were all produced by little Steven, and they featured songs written by either little Steven or Bruce Springsteen or both. And these are, a lot of these songs are ones that Bruce Springsteen just had, you know, songs kind of left over from his albums. I know that when he was doing like the Darkness on the Edge of Town album in 78, he had some extra tracks, gave him to Southside Johnny, stuff like Talk to Me, great, great song. And so, you know, Southside Johnny's first 3 albums, that's really where it's at. Those 3 albums have some really good songs on them. And little Steven got his job with Bruce Springsteen by helping him with some horn arrangements for the song 10th Avenue Freeze Out. This was back in 1975. Bruce was working on the Born to Run album, and he got stuck on the intro to 10th Avenue Freeze Out, and little Steven came up with the horn arrangement that begins that song, and Bruce loved it so much that he wanted to bring little Steven into the band, and he's been there, I can't say ever since, because he did leave, but he came back again, and he's still in the band now. But, you know, in the late 70s, he had to kind of part ways with Southside Johnny, had to devote a lot of his time to Bruce Springsteen, who of course was blowing up in the late 70s and the early part of the 80s. And then Southside Johnny, he came across Jon Bon Jovi, who was an up-and-coming talent, and Southside Johnny worked with Jon Bon Jovi. He produced, I think, one of his early albums with one of his bands that he had. John Bon Jovi has said that one of the reasons why he does what he does is because of Southside Johnny. He's borrowed a lot from his stage banter and everything. And I would have to imagine that Southside Johnny picked up on a lot of the stage banter and a lot of the kind of ways of doing things that Bruce Springsteen did, because, you know, in those mid-70s, you know, Springsteen was a beast during his live shows. He was always known for doing these real big, epic 3-hour plus shows. He still does a lot of shows that are very, very long. And I know there's a lot of, he's a very polarizing figure, Bruce, for many, many reasons. But Southside Johnny, I think you could appreciate Southside Johnny without liking Bruce. You know, he's very, very different. You know, Southside Johnny's got more of a soulful kind of a sound. He's much more smooth. And I'm not going to say that he's a better singer. He's a different singer. And I think that he's done a really good job with the songs that Bruce gave him, like Trapped Again and Talk to Me and The Fever. Really great songs. I've got a companion playlist to go with this video. So I'm going to throw a link up. You can check this out. I got Southside Johnny songs in there, some stuff that Southside did with John Bon Jovi and Bruce Springsteen and Little Steven. Just go check out the playlist for more in-depth on what I'm talking about here. The reason why I was introduced to Southside Johnny was in the early 80s. It's all because of my father. He had this album called Having a Party with Southside Johnny. And the album was a greatest hits album of sorts. You know, like I said, he's never had any hits, but the album was a compilation of the best stuff from his first 3 albums. And I always did love that album. Never got a chance to see Southside Johnny. I know that my father is still a really big fan. So when this show came around, I was like, you know what? You know, I go see enough shows with my friends or maybe by myself, but this time I want to go see one with my dad, have like a good father-son night. So I bought him tickets and we went to go see this show down in Rocky Mount at the Harvester Performance Center. Great, great venue there. And it's a real intimate venue. And, you know, it was like in the second row. And it was just a real enjoyable evening. You know, Southside Johnny, yeah, he's like 70 years old now. He doesn't have quite the voice that he used to. He's a little bit rough around the edges. But he really shows you why he is known as the godfather of the New Jersey sound. And the New Jersey sound is basically built around a pre-Beatles kind of sound, you know, back to the Drifters and the Coasters, you know, the kind of horn-heavy soul from those bands, and also the blues of like Muddy Waters and Big Joe Turner. And so it's just a lot of soulful blues and rock and roll. And, you know, I just love the horns. That's one of the things I love about Southside Johnny's songs is the horn arrangements. And you got to give credit to Steven Van Zandt for that. I mean, you go back and listen to a track like The Fever. You know, that's a great, great song. The horns are great on it. Trapped Again's got great horns. This Time It's For Real. I mean, I love the horns on that one. You know, Southside Johnny's got a nice horn section. You know, he's got a trumpet player. He's got a great saxophone player. He was really, really good. And then, of course, a great trombone player. And sometimes they all played at once. There was even an accordion player. You know, so it was a very, very rich evening. Just a lot of horns and a lot of blues and soul. And, you know, every now and then Southside Johnny would take a request from the audience. They'd shout a song back to him and he'd turn around and play it. And, you know, that's something that I saw Bruce Springsteen does. He's really known for that. One of the best shows I ever saw was when I saw Bruce. I was just amazed at how he would take a request from the audience and he'd turn around to the band, shout it to them, and they would just pick up and play it. That takes a lot of talent there. And so I don't have a set list for this show. I typically run through the set list, but I went to Setlist FM and it was not accurate at all. It was probably the most inaccurate set list that I've ever seen. And I even made a note of it. And somebody said that, well, this is the list that they were given. Maybe this is the list, this was the official set list that Johnny wanted to play, but he didn't follow it. But I do know that he played like The Fever and I Don't Want to Go Home and Talk to Me. And he played This Time It's For Real. Just a lot of the great songs that he's known for. And so it was a very enjoyable evening. I mean, this is like a great date night kind of thing, you know. So I would encourage you, if you want to go see some good blues and soul and rock and roll, to check out Southside Johnny. You know, he puts on a really good show. Looks like he's going to be on tour through the summer, through July. He's going to be heading over to Europe soon, going to Scotland and Wales and the UK, and then he's back to the States, playing in like the Northeast and the Midwest. So, you know, let me know what you think about Southside Johnny. Let me know if you've ever heard of him before, you know, what you think about his songs, about even Bruce Springsteen too, or Little Steven. Drop it down below. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Be sure to check out the companion playlist for this video too, and hit that subscribe button. And like I said, there will be more concert reviews coming at you for 2019, so stay tuned for that. And as always, you know, thanks for watching, and I will check back with you soon.